I acquired a workbench a few months ago, and it was really just too big to put in my shop. So I was just gonna stick it against the wall, but then my mom was down visiting and her and my wife got to talking. Well, they decided that it would be much better if it was inside the house. So I got a renovation project. Now this thing was pretty bad. I mean, it was pretty beat up. The top was all warped. I had to plane it down, and some of the doors were made out of OSB. But nonetheless, it was my project. So I started off, I planed the whole top nice and flat, and then I took the top off and set it to the side. After removing all of the hardware, I turned the whole thing on its side and I had to cut off some of the feet. Well, actually I had to cut off all of the feet. One of them was messed up, but the whole entire workbench needed to be dropped down a little bit because it was really tall. The place that I was going to put it is going to be right behind my couch, so it needed to be about 28 inches tall. I chamfered each of the legs using my lock plane and then just started sanding. You should always use a face mask or breathing protection when you're sanding, but I really didn't know what kind of paint this was, so I didn't want to be inhaling any lead. I thinned out my paint with a little bit of water. I usually use about a shot glass full of water for 48 ounces of latex paint. After painting all of these doors, I had a nice teal dust on everything in my garage. I still find things that are teal. Luckily, when you spray like this, the particles atomize and they dry relatively quickly. So they're almost always dry before they touch everything, but now just everything in my garage is teal. Everything. The top of my bandsaw is teal. After everything was thoroughly sprayed, I applied a glaze. I actually thinned the glaze down even more with water, primarily because it's like 90-something degrees in my garage. Not ideal conditions. The top of the workbench, for some reason it overhung a lot in the back, and I wanted to overhang in the front, so I actually flipped the whole thing and had to re-drill new screw holes, or new bolt holes. It also overhung something like 9 inches on both sides, so I cut that down to match what the overhang on the front was. I applied a dark walnut stain to the top and then began my clear coat process. Using a wipe-on poly and mineral spirits, I mixed about a 1 to 2/3 ratio. Using this mixture, I did 6 coats. My first 3 coats was just a really light wipe on with a rag. Now when I do this, I wipe it until it's pretty much all of the way dry, which since you thin it out with mineral spirits, it generally doesn't take a long time. For my last 3 coats, I put on a lot more, and I actually used 400 grit sandpaper along the way to really get it smooth. And this is old rustic wood. It's got a lot of dents in it. It's got kind of chunks missing out of it. So I wanted to keep that, but I also wanted it to be very smooth. And then once again, after you do the sanding, just kind of rub with the cloth until it's nice and dry. I did get new hardware for the drawer knobs, or the poles, but I didn't get new hinges. So what I did is I just took the old ones and I sprayed them with a rubbed bronze finish. At this point, I am glad to say that this project is done. Painting stuff like this takes a really long time, especially when you have to wait until 10 or 11 o'clock at night for your shop to get down to the temperature range that you can actually paint in. I've tried to get my wife to let me sell this thing, but she just won't let me do it. So it's in our house, and I think we're going to enjoy it for a lot of years to come. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please comment down below, and if you haven't already, subscribe so you can catch some of my future videos. Oh, my beer.